Hello and welcome to episode 52 of the Mental Health Gaming Podcast. I'm Brad. I'm joined by Stu. Nothing special today. So, how you doing, Stu?
I'm thinking about being 52, which isn't my age. It's the number of podcasts we've done, which you just said. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting in a way. There's a whole year and we haven't missed a week. So that's good. Not sure about whether that's good for the listeners, but yeah. I've enjoyed it so far.
No, that's impressive. Actually, you've made it to 52. I'm technically only on 51.
That's right. You skived off 1 week.
I know. It's my podcast and I'm the one who's done least. There you go.
Disgraceful. Well, I'll think of some sort of punishment for you.
You'll make me come back next week.
Yeah, you'll just have to listen to me talk. That's punishment enough.
So, because this is the Mental Health Gaming Podcast, and because my ADHD is well known, you wouldn't believe the amount of planning that's gone into this episode. As in, none. Because it only occurred to me this morning that it was episode 52, and thus it had been a year. So what we'll do, we'll start off as normal, and we will talk about what we've been playing. So, Stu, as usual, we're not going to do it any differently as a treat. You can go first.
Cool. So, the first thing and the least exciting, but still quite interesting.
Is it Dead Cells?
No. I'm glad you mentioned that because I wasn't even going to mention Dead Cells, and I should. So the first one is going to be Dead Cells, and it's that I completed it the other day. So, yay.
Well done.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously after you complete it, there's still plenty you can do, and you can go back into it. And I'll re-engage with it at some point, but I've given myself a break because it was 25 hours in or something. So, yeah, I don't know. I had this mental block early on and meant I probably wasn't playing it as well as I could. And I certainly wasn't sort of min-maxing stuff. I was more happy just playing around. And, yeah, ignored shields completely, which might have been a mistake and stuff like that. But in the end, yeah, I did it, and I defeated the castle and the last boss in one go. Well, obviously I did, because it's a roguelike, so you have to do it in one go.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, the very first time I got to the final boss, I beat him straight away. So I was pretty chuffed for that. And yeah, there we are. So it's on the back shelf now, but God, that's a great game. I loved every minute of that.
Yeah, I loved my time with it. I still don't know if it's one I'll ever want to go back to, but yeah, I absolutely loved my time with it. I didn't actually complete it though, so that's a thing with me and completing games. I generally don't complete games. I get to a point where I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this now.
Well, if you remember, like a few weeks ago when we were talking about it, and you said, yeah, when I was really struggling, you said, oh, you know, some things just aren't for you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's right, but I'm going to kick this thing's ass. So I did. Yeah. There was no way I was giving up at all. But yeah, it's the sort of game that I think with roguelikes particularly, because the levels aren't beautifully designed. I mean, the backgrounds are nice, but because the systems have to fit no matter how it reconfigures, and they're this tile system that we've talked about lots of times, you're not like, oh, I really want to go back to that snow level where you know, do this and this. Or when that rain suddenly starts when a boss appears. There's no like little flourishes like that in very many roguelikes, because, you know, they have to repeat themselves over and over. So, like I mentioned on the forum that we're on, it's not like Strider. You know, it's not like, oh my God, seeing the next thing. It's like once you've seen that baddie, that's the only kind of new kind of thing, that and that new level, and then it endlessly reconfigures. So, yeah, going back to them is like, well, I'd rather probably move on to a different roguelike rather than re-engage with that. But yeah, no, it's great. It's a really great game.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, no, anyone who's not played it, I do recommend giving that a go. I think you can pick it up for generally about 15 quid, and it's definitely worth that.
Yes, it is. It is. I enjoyed it as much, if not more, than Hades. Probably as much. I'm not saying it's as good, but I enjoyed it as much, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from with that. I think Hades, for me, is still at the very top level for me in terms of enjoyment of roguelites. Actually, yeah. Hades still sits second because kind of linked in, and talking about going back and replaying roguelites, I went back and started playing The Binding of Isaac again. And boy, do I love that game.
Cool.
Again, it's another one I've never completed, but that for me's never been the point of a roguelite. I look at them as something that are just, it's fun to go and do, and if you get far in one run, that's great. You know, it's the equivalent, I suppose, of doing like the daily like crossword in like one of the posh papers or something like that, where you'll do it because it's there soon. If you complete it, great. If you don't, no, you do the next one. And that's what roguelikes are for me. So I went back and started playing Binding of Isaac, and it's the first time I've played it for a good 6-7 months, I think, maybe a little bit longer. And there's definitely been things like Hades and that out in since I last played it. And so I went back and went, after playing a few others, how does it actually hold up? And it is still the king. It is absolutely spectacular. The simplicity of it, where obviously you can move pretty much in any direction, and it's like almost 360 degrees of movement. But shooting is only sort of like up, down, left and right. And it's like that balance shouldn't work, but it does. And so it keeps it really simple. And whereas a lot of roguelikes claim, everyone's going to be different because there's all these different things. Even Dead Cells, to a degree, was guilty of this, where you got runs and they felt a little bit samey.
Yeah. Because
you got a loadout that you liked. Binding of Isaac, unless you enter in a seed to get that same run again, I've honestly not had 2 runs on that have been identical or even close to identical. And it absolutely nailed it. And that is probably the one that I will keep going back to. And Spelunky when that comes out again. But yeah, been playing a good amount of Binding of Isaac again in preparation for Repentance coming out in March.
I never really took to Binding of Isaac. I'm not sure why. It might have been the angle of shooting it and partly that, and partly because it's a really ugly game, and I find it very ugly to look at. But it's
interesting actually. There's an interview, I don't know if you've seen the No Clip documentary interview with Ed McMillan, and he talks about that there was a lot of pressure on him to go, look, this looks really good. Binding of Isaac is a really good game. Have you thought about changing the tone of it and the visuals of it? And he explained why he kept it in, and it's a lot to do with his childhood and stuff like that, and his memories and mental health and all things like that. And it's a really interesting insight as to he forewent earning more money to keep his artistic vision going, which I think is absolutely cracking. I think it's really good of him to do that. And again, it's not a game for everyone, so I get some people will be put off by the visual style, the themes, and even the mechanics of it. But the main reason I brought it up was I actually never realised Ed McMillan made... Well, I know he's made other games like Meat Boy and things like that, The End Is Nigh, and a whole bunch of like shorter games. What I didn't realise is he made a game in my favourite genre, and that is puzzle games. And it's taken a character from Isaac, and it's called The Legend of Bumbo. And that's a sort of match 3 style dungeon crawl roguelike. And whilst it doesn't hold a candle to Isaac in any way, shape or form, it's a really, really good time waster. It's kind of got this cut out papercraft style aesthetic to it, but somehow still retains that look of Isaac.
Yeah.
And basically, it's like a roguelike. You match 3 to do damage to enemies, to defend against them in certain ways. And you get various upgrades you can go along the line. It's not the best of genre as a puzzle or a roguelike, but yeah, a really good time waster that I got for, I think, part of Play Pass on Android. But yeah, if you're a fan of Isaac, you're a fan of Ed McMillan, definitely check that one out.
Nice. Yeah, and then my second one was... It's a game that is available on a streaming service. Sorry, that was nastily said. I'm really tired. I had to get up really early, and the night before I didn't sleep very well, so I'm a bit hazy.
It happens.
I'll probably cut this bit, but anyway.
I wouldn't.
Okay. So, I was playing Pro Evolution Soccer 2021, which is on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh God, I haven't played a sports game for ages. The last one I played was NBA 2021 or whatever it is, which, is really good, but it's very, very technical. And
Yeah.
Pro Evo probably is as technical, but because I know footy better, it's easier for me.
Yeah.
And also, I've played tons of Pro Evo in the past. And what was interesting to see is that even though I haven't played a Pro Evo game for at least 10 years, which is an enormous amount of time, the basic controls are the same. Well, I say basic, I mean they're not basic in the slightest, but the more intricate controls are the same as well, and they've added more intricacy on top of it. But it's nice to see that core stuff is in there still. But what I really liked is that they've sorted out, or to a large degree, jostling, because the thing that they never got right in the past was tackling.
Yeah.
Because you either had to like run up and hope that the ball would clatter into you and you'd gain possession, or you had to do a slide and you practically, like 70% of the time, you get yellow carded for it, or even red carded. So what I was pleased to see was that you can get into position, jostle and jockey, and you have a better than even chance of taking the ball off them, which just adds so much more to the whole tactical front of it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I mean, I won't play it a lot because you either you really kind of need to play online, in which case you do, to say it again, need to min max, or you need to play with a friend, and I don't have any friends who'll play it. So yeah, I probably won't play it a lot, but I really enjoyed sticking on Master League for a bit, taking Norwich forward, because for some bizarre reason I always pick Norwich even though I've got no real links to it, and yeah, I had a good blast with it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, the way people look at sports games. I can't play the most recent NHL games, FIFA, Pro Evo, because I understand ice hockey, I understand football. So the little nuances that are missing from those games just really infuriate me, especially in ice hockey. But because I know the nuances of hockey and I understand the tactical aspect of ice hockey, that not being in the NHL games really frustrates me. And it's the same when it comes to FIFA and Pro Evo. The little nuances, such as the midfield battles or why you'd knock the ball around the back from retain possession for a bit and stuff like that, are gone from those games. Whereas the NBA games and the baseball games, I absolutely adore, because I don't have an inner knowledge of exactly why you don't just run to the basket and try and put it in the basket, why you would spend time moving it between these two players to work it to here and stuff like that. I understand that there's a reason for that, but I don't understand the absolute nuances, so I prefer those. And I think that's the thing with sports games, and why I'd love to see a return to more arcadey games as well, because either you've got to get it spot on, or you just remove it completely.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing that with football. You get football, but you're not a massive fan of football, I assume, are you?
Well, I'm not anymore, but I used to be, so I know the nuances. But it's a good point. I with sports sims, I think it's like the uncanny valley. So, like, if it's nothing like footy but it's fun, that's fine. If it's a perfect simulation, that's fine. But just before that, if it's almost perfect but misses quite a lot of the nuances, like you said, then you can really plummet down into it, and it's a real problem. So I get that. Yeah.
It's why I enjoyed handball. That could be the worst representation of a sport that has ever been put onto like digital format, but I enjoyed the buggery out of it because I don't know how to play handball. I've seen it at the Olympics and things like that, and it looks fun, but yeah, I don't understand it. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we definitely need more arcade sports games though, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Arcade, right? Indie developers, someone make a 2.5D arcade kabaddi game. I will buy it. I won't even ask for a review code. I will buy it. There you go.
I would. Yeah, I would pay for that as well, because I want to see more of that sort of stuff.
Transworld Sports presents Kabaddi 2022. There you go.
What else have you been playing then?
So, two things that I'm going to mention. One is I'm now about 60 hours into Football Manager. I forgot how much of a time sink that game can be and how much time that just eats up.
Yeah.
Rather than playing Liverpool, I'm trying to bring Sunderland back to the top after they were relegated down to like the second from bottom division. So that's my challenge I've set myself on Football Manager 2021. Boy, Yeah, that's a time sink of a game. I've had games where I've looked at my play time, and I felt like I've been in it for ages. And I've gone, I've only done an hour. Is that it? Whereas this one, I'm looking at it, I've only had this a week or so. I'm sure I've only had this 2 weeks, and I've done like nearly 60 hours. What's going on? The only other game that does that is Tetris, but I've always known, since, Champ Manager 92, I think I played originally. Oh, wait, I lost count of how many hours I've played to that. But yeah, really, really, really good game. When we're talking about getting the little bits and understanding the nuances of sport, that gets it. There's still a few little bits such as canned interviews and stuff like that. But on the whole, it is better than playing football.
Nice.
The other game I've been playing is in early access, and I nearly broke embargo on it, so I had to pull my coverage. It's like, oops, should check the embargo notes. Is Snowtopia.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a management sim, and I say we've done it in my review, in my preview, sorry, because it's early access as well. I've mentioned that we've managed cities, we've managed theme parks, hospitals, dinosaur parks, football teams, farms, everything. This is the first time I've managed a mountain resort, and it's interesting. It doesn't do anything particularly new, doesn't do anything particularly great. It plays it very safe, but in playing it safe, it actually makes a very playable game. So the concept here is you're given a mountain that's been started off, so you've got like a lodge and a few places for people to stay and stuff like that, and you go in and you've got to build the first slope. So first thing you do is you build a stair lift. No, that's wrong. What isn't it? A ski lift.
Yeah.
Yes, stair lift. That's a completely different game. Stenner Manager or whatever. The Stenner stair.
I was going to
lift.
say what would we call that? Yeah.
That'd be very well just one set of stairs, and I don't know. But anyway, you build a ski lift and you take that up to a top of a mountain or wherever you need it to go, and then you build a slope down. Then you connect it all, and hey, you got your first thing. Then it goes as the tutorial starts going, right, now you need to add some amenities in there. So, when they get to the top, they might want a drink. So you need to add a drink station. You need to make sure that it's all maintained. So you need to add maintenance huts. All loads of kinds of things like that. So you go for all that, and it's quite an interesting tutorial. Bit convoluted in places where it's awkward to see what you're doing because there's a lot of white on Snowtopia. There's a hell of a lot of white, so you're like, I can't quite see what's going where, and yellow's on white for some of the markers, and you're like, have I selected that? I don't know, I could have done. There's a few little things that need ironing out in early access. It needs better tutorials for certain aspects, because I got to a point where I built a slope and it said, I've managed to build a blue slope, which is like the second one up from a beginner, and then it went, you now need to build a blue slope. I've already done that. And you need to build a green slope. So okay, so the area where I've just built this, I've now got to knock this down to then build a beginner slope to go somewhere else and build a slightly more experienced slope. Right, you need to actually onboard that a bit better than what you have. But there's not much punishment for knocking stuff down and going again. It's quite a lot of freedom with that, which is really good. Whereas I've played other games where if you don't do what it wants or you deviate, you've buggered it up completely because all your finances are gone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's building up and it's building up. I've played a good few hours of it, and I'll set it by the wayside for a little bit now, and come back to it when there's another major update. But yeah, really, really safe but interesting management simulator.
Very cool. Well, the last one that I been playing this week is by far the best, and that's Ghostrunner, and it's one of those that completely consumes my mind and brain. There's some games that just completely click with you, and it's been one of them. And it's just fantastic. So it's a bit like Mirror's Edge in that it's a first-person platform game, but there's much more emphasis on the action. So you've got like a katana. It's a cyberpunk type situation, not the game, but the genre. And yeah, kind of like if you think of like the original Ninja Gaiden and things like that, the Ninja and a bit of Shinobi, like run and slash type games. It's kind of like that, but in first person, and loads of wall running and dashing and blinking like you do in Dishonored. It's just, I just love it. It's just one of those that it's a real Marmite situation, because it's one hit kill. So one hit from you kills them, one hit from them kills you. So it instantly restarts, but obviously, it's very repetitive because of that, especially when you're finding your feet. But it just looks amazing, and the satisfaction you get when you complete like a course running around the environment, it's so good. So totally love it.
It looks like it's one of those games that looks like, the only way I can describe it is a ballet of violence.
Yeah, completely. It is incredibly violent and unreconstructed, and it's just amazing. Yeah,
it's on my list to play. I've got it installed and it's ready to go. I've just not had the time yet with other stuff to sit down and play it, but that's one I'm going to sit down for my own enjoyment and play.
Yeah, I mean, you'll know pretty quickly whether it's for you or not. I can imagine a lot of people will bounce off it. I got the demo first before I bought it, and and it was for me.
Well, I've got it on my subscription service, Stew Pass.
Indeed.
So it's no risk. Just to clarify, I'm not just stealing off Stu. He gets Brad Pass on Steam as well, because we made use of that to share some games, which is really good.
A lot of indie games. Yeah, a lot of indie games.
Yeah, you seem to have a few more AAA games than I have, but you still got a lot of indie games.
Oh yeah.
But mine looks like it's. If they was ever going to do a documentary on lost indie games, they can just come and look at my Steam list.
Yeah, it's like a museum.
It's like, I think I've got 1,300 games on there, and I'd say 1,250 of them are indie.
Yeah, I think like 90% of mine are like what you'd call AA games, I think.
Yeah, people have heard of your games.
True.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas there's four, rather than the four of us have heard of half of mine.
Yeah, there's like you and the developer.
Yeah.
Are the only people who know it exists.
And I will continue to beat that drum. In saying that, actually, before we move on, because I'm gonna throw something at you in a minute, put you on the spot.
Oh, lucky me.
I'm planning on doing a video soon, actually talking of indie games. There seems to be a little bit of a resurgence on casual simulator games. And when I say that, it's things like Session and Skater XL and BMX the game, where there doesn't seem to be a gamification of it. It's just, hey, look, we've made a skateboard simulator or BMX simulator, go have at it. And I've been playing a few of those, so I'm going to do a little bit of a roundup of those in the next couple of weeks.
Cool.
But to throw you under the bus, in a way, we've been going for a year. But this is the extent of the plan. I planned this while you were talking before as well. I went, this is a good idea. We've been going for the best part of a year. What for you is the best game that you've had to cover for mental health gaming since you started on the podcast that you've been given to cover?
By quite a significant margin, it's Paper Beast, which is one of my games of all time already. It's just amazing. It's not really like anything else, and the fact that it's in VR just genuinely does add like a completely new dimension to it. I won't go on about the gameplay because you can see my coverage on the site, but yes, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, it was sort of a really emotional experience, as well as a really good game, Ludo style experience as well. So yeah, just wonderful.
Yeah, no, I've still not played it, and it's one that I keep wanting to play. I don't know why I've not got round to playing it yet, when I know that you said how much you love it. I think it was the fact that it was a VR game at first. I know you can play it without VR, and part of me keeps going, the effort I've got to put into playing this. I realise that I haven't actually got to put the effort into playing it because it's not in VR anymore.
Yeah.
So I will rectify that. By the time we get to 104, I will have rectified that.
Well, I'd be interested to see what you say about it in non-VR, because I have my thoughts about how it will turn out. But I'll be interested to see what you think of it. Yeah.
So on my side with this, because it's a really difficult one for me, because again, the amount of indies I've played. So I got it down to 2. And the reason I've got this down to 2 is because I still hope we get the crossover that I dream of for this in some way.
I know where you're going with this one.
Go on, what do you think? Go on.
So, Lonely Mountains Downhill.
And?
The Art of Rally.
Well done. 100% spot on. Absolutely love both games. Lonely Mountains Downhill is... It's very difficult to describe because it is both the most relaxing game you will ever play, whilst also being the most infuriating. It's like, imagine if Dark Souls was used as a way of meditation. That's what Lonely Mountains Downhill is, because you get some parts of that where it's just so infuriating and almost controller throwing that you don't understand how it's relaxing. But there's no soundtrack apart from natural sounds, and it's just, you just lose yourself to it.
Yeah.
Art of Rally takes the concept of rally and just basically goes, look, we called it Art of Rally for a reason, and it nails absolutely everything. They've both got a similar aesthetic style, and yeah, I just want to see them merge together. But two games that I absolutely fell in love with across the last year. I could make an endless list of great games that we can play, but yeah, it's just those two. Every time I look back, I go, these are the ones that stand out for me. Neither are the best games of the year, but both of them are two that have just really stuck with me.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, I found Art of Rally too hard. Like, the skill ceiling for me was too high, but that's on me. But it's a lovely looking game, and I can imagine if you're skilled enough to do it, then yeah, definitely a great one. And yeah, Lonely Mountains, I've not played that yet, but it's kind of on my list, you know. I want to pick it up at some point. Definitely.
Well, you can get it on Brad Pass.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course I can.
Silly me.
Yeah, so but yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion on that one day, because it is, I absolutely love it. And again, I know for someone who's quite a pessimist when it comes to things in life, my love of games is one that's never been hit by pessimism.
Yeah,
you know, I still look for excuses to find goodness in even the worst games, apart from Sonic 4. Sonic 4 can just go and die in a fire, because that was the worst game ever, and I will argue that to anybody.
Fair play.
So anyway, moving on. Couple of bits we're going to talk about on the mental health section. One of them's slightly political, I suppose, and we'll start off with that before we get to a feel-good ending. Ninja, in an interview with, I believe, the New York Times recently. If anybody doesn't know, Ninja he's the guy who's really good at Fortnite and has become a massive personality, and he gets paid stupid money just to appear on stuff now. Anyway, he done an interview with the New York Times, and they brought up various things about his refusal to play with women in the past, and then spoke to him about the kids and everything who watch him, and like the racism and that they spout on his chat. And he turned around and said, it's not up to me. It should be up to the parents to parent their children. I shouldn't be teaching them about racism and white privilege. And it's kind of gone down really badly across social media and various commentators and stuff like that. And I don't know if this is a hot take, but I somewhat agree with what he's saying, just not in the way he's saying it. Now, I don't think it is up to him to teach his viewers or anything about white privilege, about racism. But he seems to be saying that in a way that he shouldn't be stopping what he's doing and giving them a lesson. I totally agree with that. It's not up to him to do streams based around, hey kids, this is white privilege, and hey kids, this is what you shouldn't be saying. I get that. He shouldn't be doing that. But he is a role model to millions. And what he should be doing is denouncing it every time he sees it. Okay, not every time because it's a constant stream, but what he should be doing is within those streams is just announcing, look, I'm picking up on what you're all saying in the streams. If the racism continues, I will shut it down. I will shut down the chat. I will shut down the stream. I will turn this stream off. You know, and it doesn't need him to give them lessons, but it does need him to go, no, I'm not doing it. We stop now.
Yeah.
And that's what he needs to do. He's right, though, because parents do need to parent, and if a lot of these parents probably realise what their kids are saying just for a reaction, I'm willing to bet most would be horrified. Not all of them, of course, but most would be horrified and would possibly sit their kids down and talk to them about it. But a lot of parents aren't aware of what their kids are saying on chats. But yeah, it's a weird one. He seems to be getting a lot of flack for saying that parents should be taking more control here. And I say, I'm not against what he's saying, just he kind of went about it in the wrong way, which is but you know, I just always think they're trolling me, and it's, you know, it's me they're trying to get a reaction from. It's like, no, it's not about you. You're right in what you're saying in terms of, you know, parents have got to do more, but you're a personality, you're an influencer, for want of a better word, and you're a role model to these kids. You may not want to say this stuff. You may not want to maybe put your millions or billions of dollars at risk that you're earning now. But as a role model, you've got to take a stand. And yeah, it's a tough one. I think he's getting a lot of abuse for the wrong things of this one of late. But what do you make of all this?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think you're right in that. The underlying point, I think he's possibly got a grip on, but the path taken to get to the underlying point is poorly plotted.
Yeah.
You know, no, I don't think he's quite understood the gravitas and the importance of all of this, and that's really unusual. It's probably because, like, if you just going back to footy, if you think about footballers who play in the Premier League, most of them are, you know, fair to say, not all of them, most of them, dumb as bricks. But they are, you know, coached by marketing guys on what to say and when to say it. And what they steer them towards is, don't say anything, you know, bad, obviously, but don't say anything good unless you're going to do something about it. And so they get ahead of it by going, right, well, we'll have a publicity day where, you know, you go out and help underprivileged kids, or you start up a charity that, you know, supports schools, or, you know, to eliminate racism and things like this. And you get the odd one like Marcus Rashford, who breaks the mould and doesn't care and does something good, but they are the exception because they're quite well streamlined into behaving in a certain way and approaching things in a certain way. But Ninja sits in a funny space of YouTube personalities where he is sort of like neutral good, to use the Dungeons and Dragons meme thing. He's like, he's okay, he's a fine enough, you know, person from what I understand, but he's neutral. So he doesn't do anything bad, but he doesn't denounce anything either. Now, he can make an argument that that's him, but the thing is, he can't, when you've reached a certain level of fame, you can't just be you, because you are you and your fans, so you represent them. And it reminds me of, and I didn't even know about this till quite recently, but the punk-ish band Sham 69 were very much like working class, and they came along in the 80s. They're a little bit later than real punk, in inverted commas. They came along a bit later, but they were still punkish. But the National Front adopted them, and they, as a band, were totally opposed to it. But every gig they did was swamped with National Front, and in the end, the lead singer disbanded the band because he could not get rid of them, and he would stop gigs all the time to say, "You're not cool. This isn't cool. We're not part of this." But they were part of it, and they insinuated themselves into the band and the band's character to the public, you know, in public view, to the point where they couldn't exist anymore. Now, I think today you could approach that differently, and that's what Ninja should be doing. He has to recognise that he is not just him, he is his fans, because when you watch something of his, You're not just seeing him, you're seeing all the people talking at the same time. So he has to, in my opinion, recognise that, and that's where his responsibility lies. So what he should do with that is up for debate, but he should be recognising it.
Yeah, it feels to me like, I don't want to say he's too scared of losing the bottom line and losing his income, but he's very much towing that line that, not right-wingers, but definitely the centrists use, which is, well, yeah, no, they are wrong in what they say, but, you know, they've got to be allowed to have their say, and it's not up to me to stop them saying it. That's kind of the view he's taking. Now, what I think the people who say that kind of stuff are then hearing is, well, Ninja thinks it's okay, so I'll continue saying it.
Yeah.
I'll continue watching him. I'll continue subbing to him. He'll continue earning his money. And I think there is a degree of, well, I might only earn 3 million this year instead of 7 million or whatever it is, to that. And I don't blame him for that to a degree, because he is a young man. He's still in his 20s, I think. And he's got more money than he knows what to do with, I'd imagine. So he's not had to go through like the struggles or anything like that. So I mean, he's white privilege is there for him, and it shouldn't be up to him to solve white privilege or solve racism. No one's saying that, but he's got to start taking a stand. And I also appreciate on his part that he's thinking about it. He's not just ignoring it. This is the interesting part about the comment. He is thinking about it. I just don't think he's got the capacity to deal with it properly, in which case he should get help for people to help him learn how to deal with this, rather than spouting his opinions. Because if he continues spouting the opinions like he is, of which I said I agree with the sentiment, just not how he's got there. You know, everyone agrees that world peace is a good thing and no more wars is a good thing. But if we got there by totally obliterating the human race, most people might agree that's not the way to go about it. And so, yeah, he's got to have someone who thinks about that. And I get that will play on him. And here's the thing where I sympathise with personalities. Everything they say is put under a microscope. We've just been guilty of that by putting him under a microscope for this little segment. And to wrestle with that on a let's not say daily basis, let's say on a weekly basis, where you've got to be careful what you say, because you could be dealing with an absolute shitstorm after that. That's not a good place to be mentally. One of the things we advocate is being able to speak openly about things, but then certain people having to be told, actually, no, you can't speak that openly. It's not a good place to be mentally. And I hope he doesn't get overly vilified for it. I hope people take the decent road with him and just try and explain to him why this is wrong, why his opinion there was set out in the wrong way, and how to address it, rather than completely vilify him. Because I hate to see him absolutely destroyed for what he said, because that just teaches no one anything. Because if he gets absolutely destroyed for it, one, you can destroy him mentally, and two, the right-wing fans that he has will use that as an excuse to uprise even further, that we're shutting down one of their figures, even though he's not. They see him as a figure, and him being shut down, it gives them a reason to rise. And if that happens based on that, again, or just on a personal level for him mentally, that could absolutely destroy him. And let's not forget, just because he has got umpteen riches does not mean he's not vulnerable at the same time. So yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. Yeah. I think what they're coming off now as well, what's interesting to know, obviously a lot of these personalities are, I think they're coming off 4 years where their popularity has grown in that time frame, where they've watched the most powerful person in the world say what he wants, how he wants, about anything he wants, with no consequence. Now, that's not to say consequences isn't coming to him, hopefully now, but for 4 years they've watched him do what he wants with no consequence. And that has to have an effect on, well, I'm popular, I'm famous, I can say what I want. And I think what's going to start hitting them hard now is that's going to change, because I think we'll start seeing more media types, especially, holding people to account a lot more. And I think a few of these personalities, especially in the YouTube scene and the influencers, I think are in for a little bit of a rude awakening. So it's up to them now maybe to foresee that and get ahead of it rather than have to react to it. Again, this is not an attack on them. This is for their own personal mental health, because I think what will happen if they don't get ahead of it and get a grip on things, then what comes their way is just going to destroy them. But it's an interesting one to see what happens over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, when you take the money, you take the accountability. So you can be kind of a bit lawless and Wild West and be a bit like Logan Paul or PewDiePie, who are complete idiots, but they're still substantially independent enough that they can still say what they like and make money. But once you take that corporate cash, like Ninja has, because he's got branded peripherals and stuff, hasn't he, like mice and stuff like that, and he gets sponsored. And so once you take that money, then you're on the radar, and you are going to show up in the old-fashioned, as it were, press, not just on forums and the internet. You're going to start hitting the mainstream, and the minute you start hitting the mainstream, you're going to be made accountable for stuff.
You can buy stuff in Primark, so that shows how far he's come.
Exactly.
But it'd be interesting to see what comes from that. I just hope people don't just jump on him just because he's Ninja. He's an easy figure to jump on a bandwagon of hate with, which would be a shame. He's got to learn, and he's got to use this as a learning experience. I don't think he will, personally, but I hope he does. But hopefully people don't just use it as a jump in or jump on with him.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. He shouldn't be vilified. No. Yeah, he's one of many.
Yes. But on to more positive news, and another... Are they an influencer? Maybe? I don't know. And before we get on to this, we may say certain things. It's because this is new to this particular person, and we will get better as time goes on. But Jim Sterling, also now known as James Stephanie Sterling, we will probably interject between the two as we talk, made it known a few weeks ago that they were going through gender therapy, and becoming completely non-binary, taking estrogen, and transitioning. And it was met with decent, oh, that's good for you, and things like that, with the odd bit of hate that's obviously going to come with that as well. But what James has done this last week on Monday is done the very first Jimquisition as James Stephanie Sterling. So, new outfit, long hair, definitely showing a more feminine look to things, and spoke openly and candidly about how over the course of the past few weeks they have gone out into certain situations as James rather than Jim, and the reactions they've been getting. A really lovely story speaking about how taking some shopping in, and for the first time a man went and asked if they needed help, and that was really lovely. And you could see, and one of the things that really was good to see in James's face and his voice was the look of happiness, pure unadulterated happiness. You could see it in the eyes and in the facial expressions that they've made this step to come out in these areas, and it's going probably better than they ever expected it to. And looking at the reaction to the Jimquisition episode that went out, you have to go through a lot of love to find the hate, which is so reassuring to see, and I'm so happy for them that this has gone this way.
Yeah, me too. What a fantastic thing to do. And what leapt out at me when Jim wore the more feminine outfit was how much more natural a fit it seemed to be. And like I kind of questioned why that was. And thinking about it for a while, I think it's because every subtle piece of movement, every kind of little bit of physical behaviour is slightly more relaxed.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's all obviously part of their shtick, you know, that's not going to change fundamentally. That they are very excitable and, you know, kind of aggressive in a kind of cheery, strange way. But they seemed much more like, yeah, there was much more relaxation in the stance. And it just, that immediately made it feel like they were a much more solid person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really cemented, you know, their characteristic, and it just felt more natural to me.
Yeah,
straight away. I thought that was brilliant.
What's come from it as well, I think it's all linked really for them, is that recently, a good few months ago, they still as Jim found out they had ADHD and was getting diagnosis for it and getting help with that. And I'm guessing along with that, they've been speaking to people and realising what effects the ADHD has had and what effects it's had on the way they think about themselves and the actions they take, and has used this as the catalyst for becoming themselves. Now, people come out all the time. And the reason sort of like I want to pick up on Jim Sterling doing it is because of the character of Jim Sterling versus the person. And his videos are divisive. There's no other way of saying it. They're divisive. And I get why a lot of people don't like watching his videos, because he puts on this character, this enraged character, which comes from a personal place, I still believe, but he makes it almost cartoonish with the hatred, or not hatred's the wrong word, but the way he brings AAA developers and capitalism to task. He's very passionate about it, and he emphasises that. And because he's brash, he rubs a lot of people up the wrong way. So when he first came out as non-binary a short while ago, I was concerned that might get a fair bit of abuse and really make him struggle with being able to carry on down that path. And there was some. Because I remember one of the videos a few weeks ago, Jim saying, this is where you draw the line. Me coming out as non-binary is where you draw the line on my videos. With the stuff that I've said, the stuff that I've done, you draw the line at me not wanting to be known as a man anymore. It's, you know. And he even was quite brash about that. But this video where he showed his real self for the first time, the anger seemed to be gone. He was still, at the same time, taking Activision Blizzard to task, jumping on the obscene weirdness that is the developers of Euro Truck Simulator deciding they are neither for nor against vaccines, because they want to remain centrist. He still had that, but there was less of that anger in his voice.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of that comes down to being more comfortable, and I think it worked a lot better for him as well. Because you could almost hear, rather than being angry at a developer for what they put out, he just belittled it for the idiocy that it was.
Sure, yeah.
And when he called out Bobby Kotick and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos in the final segment of it, again, it wasn't that you couldn't hear. It wasn't from the pit of his stomach hatred. It was a look, I just want to show you these people for what they are. And you could tell there was a lot more, there was a calmness over him that hasn't been there for a good number of years now. And I hope it continues. I hope, beyond all hopes, that he has found his happy place and that he can hold on to that. Because that's a lot of what will help with your mental health. You can find that thing to hold on to. And you can find that place that you can go to and that makes you feel better. You will be better You will be better. You will feel better as you push forward. It gives you something to hold on to rather than constant hatred and anger and disappointment all the time. Also, he's got a cheeky smile and wink at the end all the time, which is amazing. Yeah. I really, really hope for their sake that this is a turning point towards a more happy life. And that's great. So one of the reasons I brought this up, we was going to be talking a bit about Jim Sterling's content actually this week, possibly, and the stuff he raises and the way he argues against a lot of pushback with it as well. But I felt this was more important to speak about, and definitely is. But we'll come back to this, so there will be more Jim Sterling discussion coming down the line. And hopefully, that old previous bit, we got enough of the pronouns correct where possible. But yeah, more of that to come. Jim, I know you don't listen, but maybe you'll listen to this one because I'll tag you in the post. Good for you. But yeah, that's it for this week. So, Stu?
Yeah, so hopefully you've had an okay week and will continue to have one, but we recognise it's very difficult at the moment. I find it personally a bit easier as time goes on. I'm sort of adapting to it. Bit of a hermit at the moment, even growing the bloody shell on my back. It'd been inside that much, but yeah, fingers crossed things are okay for you. But if you're having any trouble or you just want to chat, you can always join us on Discord. We're always there for you, and we're always happy to integrate new people into the community, and it's a very friendly and very supportive community, so highly recommend you join that. Follow us on all the socials as usual. Access them via the website if you're not sure of the links. And other than that, enjoy your gaming. It's a great escape. Take care of yourself and stay safe.